Yeah.
Hey there. That's Shelby Harris. That's Nate Jackson. I'm Brandon Krisztal. We're going to bring some off-field to you real quickly, but want to let you know this, like every episode of Off-Field, is brought to you by Trusted American. Check out trustedamerican.com. Their salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a lower interest rate today and lower your monthly payments. Go to trustedamerican.com to see how much they can save you today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
I think so. I think we're all going.
Hey! Not Live Moods. I'm not Live Moods. He's not Live Moods.
I'm not.
But we are going to talk football with you again. Shelby Harris of the Cleveland Browns. Nate Jackson, former Bronco, New York Times bestselling author.
Hey.
I'm Brandon Krisztal. I've just been around here a long time. Just finished my 18th season covering the
Oh,
Broncos.
is that right?
Wow.
Yeah, I got here
Wow.
technically 19 if you count the end of 06, but that was certainly not a full season.
Yeah.
But a memorable one
Yeah.
for a number of reasons. We're going to talk about this season, though. And with Martin Luther King Day, in honor of the holiday, we didn't do off-field on Monday. But we do need to look back a little bit, I think, at the game. So we don't need to break them all down, play by play. But Nate, I'll start with you. What was your biggest takeaway kind of from the weekend, or what sticks out to you now as we're looking ahead to the AFC and NFC title games? What 2 or 3 things kind of resonate?
The Commanders right off the bat, just being able to play so well with a rookie quarterback and a first-year coach and the new owner. It shows you what happens when you get things moving in the right direction philosophically and get the bad juju out of there and the energy of Dan Snyder. Dan Quinn, clearly a great coach. I mean, he's been an awesome assistant for so long. There were questions as to how he'd be as a head coach. I know he was being interviewed here. Or was he interviewed here?
One of the rounds they were going to talk.
It was a name that was out there.
He took his name out when Hackett got the job. He took his name out because he decided to stay in Dallas.
Yeah,
but he obviously took the Falcons to the Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan and company.
Right. Yeah.
And they loved him so much in Atlanta that they kept him for another. Like the players went and advocated to Arthur Blank to keep him, and so he got one more year in Atlanta. He's just really well liked around the league.
Yeah,
and here. Cliff Kingsbury's a good hire too.
Cliff Kingsbury's got him playing really well, and Jaden Daniels, a rookie quarterback. Traditionally, a rookie quarterback sucks in the NFL.
100%.
Cannot make those types of decisions. Doesn't have the poise in the pocket. Isn't the guy at the end of the fourth quarter who's going to make the smart play to have you win the game. And to me, I'm not going to give you 2 or 3 takeaways. I just want to talk about this one because Shelby, have you played against him this year, or did you?
I played against Jaden Daniels, yes.
And Bo Nix, right?
And
you had some harsh criticism of Bo.
It wasn't harsh. I would just say it was more honest.
Yeah.
I
guess harsh for people who expected him to be neck and neck with Jaden Daniels in this rookie conversation, or even maybe surpass him as the season was going on, and Bo was getting better and better. But Jaden Daniels has proven to be obviously the best of the 6 so far.
Man, Jaden Daniels he just has this it factor.
Yeah.
The way he handles himself, the way he carries the offense, it's just it makes it that he doesn't feel like a rookie out there. He commands the offense, he commands the team, and then also the way he plays the game with his legs and with his arms it's unlike any rookie quarterback that we have. The first thought everybody wants to say is, oh, he's like a Lamar Jackson, but man, like nobody's like Lamar Jackson. We got to stop saying everybody's like Lamar Jackson. Nobody's like Lamar Jackson, but Jaden Daniels is very damn good. He just the way he commands it with his legs, the way his arm is, he has a plus arm. And I always say this, like that ball accuracy is top notch. If his hands are out here, it's hitting him on the hands. And I've always been critical of a lot of the young quarterbacks because that's where they struggle at. The ball needs to be on the outside shoulder. It ends up being on the inside, and then that's how you end up getting interceptions.
Mark Andrews at the end, it wasn't a perfect pass.
It wasn't a perfect pass.
He's got to catch that, but those are hard falling backwards, going down low like that when you're a big dude.
Like 100%. And then my thing about Bo Nix was just like he just wasn't efficient enough. It was he struggled on 3rd down, and then he threw the 2 interceptions, and then he had that long pass to Marvin Mims, which I believe should have been picked off by Denzel Ward.
Denzel Ward's one of the best corners in football.
Yeah, and so and you saw the way he closed right there, and he really made that's a play I expect Denzel to make. But the thing about Bo that I like, though, I love Bo. I like the way that he's learning, he's getting better week to week.
Yeah,
the way he started the season and the way he ended the season. If you're a Broncos fan, you have no reason but to be excited about the future.
Could you
But-
see that in the film? Because you guys obviously watch 4 games prior to the team you're
Yeah.
going to play. So could you see that even in the 4-game sample size that you were watching?
Well, and he
of
played
Bo?
some good football right before.
Yeah, he played some
the Atlanta game.
really good football, and it's especially compared to how he started the season.
Yeah.
Not throwing a touchdown pass until his fourth or fifth game,
Mm.
and so Bo Nix has really ascended throughout the season, and that's what you want to see. If you feel like you have a good rookie quarterback, that's what you want to see. It's just that Jaden Daniels has been playing at this high level all season.
Yeah.
Like he's been their guy all season. Like nobody even thought, just like with the Broncos, though, nobody even thought the Commanders were going to be anything competitive
No.
at all. And now look at them in the NFC Championship game with 1 game away going to the Super Bowl, and compared to where they were last year, well, it's a whole complete culture change. Just like you said, Nate, with new owner, new head coach. It just seems like it's a whole new breath of life in the Commanders.
When it comes to the offense of the Commanders, Cliff Kingsbury, familiar with the college game, familiar with college quarterbacks and how to kind of transition them to the NFL. Sean Payton, not really that guy. He's more of like the NFL offense is his baby. He's been in the NFL for decades. Do you think some of the success Jaden Daniels has had offensively is because Cliff Kingsbury understands that transition better and is setting up the offense better to his strengths? Because they do run the football very effectively without Jaden. They dial up some runs for Jaden, but they got 2 running backs who they actually commit to and give the ball to. Whereas the Broncos running game, they never really felt committed to it. That to me, that puts more of a strain on Bo.
So I also believe Jaden Daniels helps affect the running game too, because you have to commit a person for the read option for Jaden Daniels running the ball, which also opens up the running backs running up the middle and doing their thing, because you got Eckler and you got Robinson over there. So they have the backs to be successful. But Jaden Daniels I think Cliff Kingsbury, what he's done is, one, you have a very advanced rookie quarterback that understands coverages and understands what he's seeing. And then that report came out about this VR simulation that he does that helps him get many reps. Yeah. And I think that's big, because the one thing that these young quarterbacks don't have in the league now is as many reps as they did before. Yeah. With OTAs being cut down, and really with
only 1 practice in training camp.
Yeah, but also with the timeline being so short, if they don't produce within that first year, we always talk about replacing the quarterback. Yeah. But what Cliff Kingsbury has done is you're putting your quarterback's best traits, showing the world what he can do, and you're capitalizing on what he does the best. Yeah. And that's why I've been wondering, though, if Cliff Kingsbury does get a head job somewhere, how that offense, or how Jaden Daniels how he will be better. Yeah. And how he will, how his development will be without Cliff Kingsbury. Because I think Cliff Kingsbury does do a lot for him and has really helped elevate his game. But I don't want to take all the credit and give it to Cliff Kingsbury, because obviously Jaden Daniels is a hell of a player.
Yeah. Well, so Cliff is still under contract with Arizona for a couple more years.
Is that right?
I think, and I can double check.
They just re-upped him before they fired him.
I think he got a new 4, 5, 6 year deal and then got fired a year or 2.
Would it be nice if players had that sort of security?
Yeah, well, look at Gerard Mayo. 1 year and still got like 2-3 years left for his deal, it's bogus. But
McDaniels too, twice, I think.
We've had these conversations. I think,
and now he's hired again.
I remember because I had a friend who is big in the restaurant scene in Chicago, and was friendly with Lovie Smith. And when Lovie got fired, and he'd already been a head coach in Tampa, I believe. And so he's like, "Oh, I feel really bad for Lovie." Like, don't feel bad for Lovie. Feel bad for the quality control guys and the assistant. Any head coach who gets fired, yes, it's a raw deal, or it's a bummer one way or the other, or they earned it. But they almost always have 15 to 20 million in the modern NFL, and sometimes more. So Cliff is making, like, he's got to be I bet he's the lowest paid offensive coordinator in the league, because I'm sure Washington's paying him whatever the bottom part of OCs are. But if we'll just call it $1 million, and it might be $850.
So does Arizona,
3 or $4 million from Arizona?
So does Arizona is on the hook for a certain amount of money. Whatever he makes elsewhere, it's out of subtracted.
Yeah. Okay. It's like the Russell Wilson thing. Yeah, that's why Russ, signed with Pittsburgh for cheap, and what you might see with a Kirk Cousins type deal, if depending on what happens with him in Atlanta. But it's a way to stick it to your old club without having to stick it to your old club.
He was going to get $30 million and was fired in the middle and is getting paid through 2027. So he didn't get the Chicago job. Obviously, they hired Ben Johnson. Liam Cohen just backed out of Jacksonville. And I don't want to get into the coaches later, but just on Cliff specifically, if he doesn't feel the Raiders make sense, or if he doesn't get in the mix with the Cowboys, just like we saw Ben Johnson wait a while for the right situation for him till he got what is now a #1 pick. A lot of people thought Cliff smartly didn't go there last year, because if Eberflus gets fired, Cliff gets fired also, even though he'd worked with Caleb. So maybe he has fun with Jaden, enjoys the less pressure of just being the OC. Not that I don't think he's shying away from being a head coach, and waits for whatever the next perfect chance is, which is good for Jaden Daniels, good for the Commanders.
I could see him in Vegas.
Yeah, but they don't have a quarterback, so I'm not saying he wouldn't fit there.
They can find one, can't they?
Oh yeah, that's so easy for NFL teams. They just look at how easy it was for the Broncos.
Hey, it's never easy to find one, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in Dallas. Especially with having an established quarterback like Dak.
Texas ties, obviously.
Texas ties, and then also just no state income tax. Players and coaches alike, we all look at this. We all want to get the most bang for our buck. So you all, every state that doesn't have any state income tax.
Yeah,
so
I wonder if he's getting a severance in Arizona. Like he's like, no, this is my house. I just work. He's like has to fly to Arizona once a month to prove that he's still living there. Okay, so that
I got another one though.
Yeah, from the weekend.
Yeah, from the weekend, and I want Shelby's thoughts on this. Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the world, games the system with the protection of the quarterbacks, and it's becoming ridiculous. The baseball slide, using that to his advantage, waiting, and then doing it, knowing he's going to draw a flag. What are your thoughts on that as a defensive player?
I think it's BS. I think that is something that needs to be addressed by the rules committee at the end of the year. The rules are there to protect the quarterbacks, not for them to exploit them for their own gain.
Yeah.
You're not, and I don't think any fan wants to see that, especially in the playoffs either. I love how Troy Aikman was very vocal about it. Just like we can't have this.
Yeah.
It was that play where the Texans players hit each other.
Yeah.
And Mahomes was under it, and you still throw the flag. Like, this is what the reviews and stuff are supposed to be for, because these are critical moments. These are critical plays. They scored off of that. And it's times where, they're like you said, they're gaming the system, and it's truly just supposed to be meant for quarterback protection, because we know the league is a money league. It's all based off of, the revenue and all that stuff, and quarterbacks are a big part of that. And I understand we want to protect our investments. The issue is, though, now we're starting to let that determine games.
Yeah,
we're letting that in critical times. We're seeing when Mahomes hits the sideline, if you're running hard at him, he's going to tiptoe it and then try to step out last second and flail.
Yeah.
But if you're not running hard at him, he's going to tiptoe and keep going up the sideline.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just little things like that, where you're putting the defender in an impossible situation that there's no win for the defense.
Do you think that detracts from his legacy at all, or is it just like he's smart and he's using the rules to his advantage?
He's smart. He's using the rules to his advantage. It's just like, we can always talk about, LeBron and the flopping and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, if you're going to give me those rules to use to my advantage, I'm going to use them.
Yeah.
And you got to think the Chiefs are the team that are exploit. They're like the old school Patriots. They're going to exploit every rule, every loophole and every rule possible.
Oh, Andy got it. This is they painted the new logo on. She threw it up there as I was trying to see if she'd get it. The new logo at Arrowhead this weekend for the AFC Championship game. Well, it's coming. Because I just saw it pop up. Very, very excited about this. We'll get to it here in a sec. But it is interesting, the legacy question. I don't think, Tim Duncan would always complain to the refs. You talk about LeBron. LeBron's legacy isn't tarnished at all by the perception that he might be flopping. So it's based on championships and MVPs. And Mahomes has made enough big plays that it's, I think, not going to ruin. I mean, by the time it's all said and done, we'll see where he is in the record books. It is frustrating to see. And so Nate and I have talked a lot about and lived throughout the season about the rule changing. You as a defensive player, and we saw K-Jack, I think, is a big victim of this last year. Guys are hitting the ground, you're coming in, and they change. Your launch point is it's not that you're leaving your feet, you're aiming for their waist. They drop down and you hit them in the head, or the late slide by these QBs. Do you think specifically it'll be that you have to give yourself up, or you're going to dive forward and the baseball slide, leg first slide, is going to be potentially outlawed?
Look, man, like, we are, high class, high level athletes, and and you have players that are running full speed trying to make a tackle, and eventually it has to be on the quarterback to declare himself
protect
down.
themselves, right?
Yeah. And I think it goes to the same of this unnecessary roughness with like receivers and tight ends running across the middle. That's on the quarterback.
Right.
Why are you throwing the ball to them?
And it used to be that way.
Yeah.
It used to be like, if a quarterback throws a reckless ball and gets you laid out, then don't throw those balls anymore. But now the ref bails them out, and it actually rewards reckless throws down the field. And so when a receiver does get lit up downfield, he's expecting a flag now. Back in the day, I'm like, dude,
What are you doing?
I'm ready to get hit no matter what.
Like
You
Ray
throw me the
Lewis
ball.
across the middle. Like,
Yeah.
what do you expect?
Yeah.
Brian Dawkins.
But like now, like just like you're talking about with Kareem, like with K-Jack, these quarterbacks are putting these defenders in impossible situations, and you're putting your receivers' health and your receivers' health at risk by doing these type of moves, type of throws. But then you're punishing the NFL, showing that you're rewarding these quarterbacks for doing this.
Yeah.
I remember I heard Tom Brady say it best. Like, that's a throw that's the quarterback's fault.
Yeah.
They put them in that situation, so why are we punishing the defenders? We're in an impossible situation.
You don't remember Alvin Harper, but he was the number 2 to Michael Irvin. Signs a big deal in Tampa, and it was early in Trent Dilfer's career. Trent Dilfer basically got him retired early because Trent was just throwing hospital balls. But here, so this is from Kansas City this weekend, the new logo in the end zone. So,
That's about right.
seems about right. And I know
But
Andy, who's running our show, who's a huge Chiefs fan. She's from Missouri. Not happy that she clicked on it, but still made me laugh when I saw
we
it.
can keep talking about the refs or anything like that, but the refs are just doing what they're told. Like, this is the rule issue.
Do you think there is a bias towards the Chiefs at all? Like, they want to see him back there. They want to be at the party that Taylor Swift is at. They know how much more money it brings in, more eyeballs. Like, do you think there's a little bit of a bias there?
See, and we all know, like in the league, we know the change of game. People think of rigging games like that. Like it's it's just gonna be all these calls. It just takes 1 or 2 calls to change your game.
Yeah.
And it seems like the Chiefs get those calls.
Yeah.
Every year, like you got to think about. They don't. That one year where I think against the Bengals, where they got to redo it down.
Yeah.
Because they didn't hear, because they didn't stop the clock.
Yeah.
Like, who else? When do you ever hear about that happening to anybody else but the Chiefs? I think the reason that people believe this is because the Chiefs find themselves in a situation where this happens, and it only happens to them.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see it happen to any other team in the league, that the leeway the Chiefs get. And so I think this is why a lot of people and players always believes you're fighting the refs and the Chiefs. But that's how it's always been, though. When you're playing the best teams, even the Patriots back in the day, you have to go beat them.
That's what I was saying.
You can't just you can't
be close at the end. There.
No, you have to go beat them. That's how you beat the Chiefs, from the start to the finish. You can't leave anything up to the refs or to anyone. You got to go out there and just dominate. And that's even what the Texans said. We knew we had to really just go out there and beat them, and we didn't do it.
And now the Bills got to go try to do it. And it's funny, like, they're asking Josh Allen after the game, like, what's it going to be like? He's like, I don't know. Like, we'll see. Like, he doesn't seem very confident at all.
Well, so the data, though,
I don't want to hear about the data.
But 18 teams were penalized more.
But he's saying that it's about strategic.
It's not about how many.
Game.
It's not about how many. It's about when.
Exactly.
At the exact moment. If you wipe out, it's something as simple as this. Just say you're driving down the field, and then a phantom holding call happens. Now it's 1st and 20. Your drive just got stalled.
Yeah.
Your drive just got stalled, and that's something as simple as stop. That's how you stop.
Or if it's 3rd and 12 and they throw an incomplete ball, they're going to punt. Oops, here comes the flag.
Right.
Now you got a first down.
5 yards.
Yeah.
Like, as a defender, you're on the field, you're celebrating. Yeah, we got the field. You turn to see a flag. You don't like the air that just comes out of your chest at that moment. It's just like, dude, like we got to go up there again.
Yeah.
Like when we played the Chiefs in Cleveland, the first drive of the game, we get a 3-and-out. 3-and-out. We punt it. They punt it, and we fumble the punt, and they get the ball down at the 10, and it gives them holding life, and the game was a different game. That's kind of what those flags kind of can do.
Yeah.
Is they can change the game and kill all your momentum, because football's a momentum game.
We saw it happen with the Broncos against the Bills with Brandon Jones with that penalty that got him the ball back, and the game's still close at that point.
When the Broncos played you guys, there's some big plays. It wasn't necessarily penalties, but it was like big defensive plays at the end there that really, you guys were moving the ball with ease on the Broncos defense.
I'm not trying to be a Chiefs apologist. I do appreciate
you are.
Patrick Mahomes' greatness. I'm simply saying that because they're on TV 10 out of 18 games, 10 out of 17 games, 10 out of 18 weeks that we see them, it feels like it's easier to point out those calls because we're not watching every Jaguars game.
But every Chiefs game you are watching, they're the team that gets the breaks. Not their opponent.
It feels like it might. I mean, I guess one of the all-time best moments is Kadarius Toney, your old teammate for a couple of days, feels like one of the dumbest football players you'll ever come across. You don't have to comment on that.
No,
but
man,
he has
but
to
here's my thing. We
he has
can
to
we
throw-
can we can we can
but
here's
let me
the
just talk about the
difference. Though.
player.
We can talk about we can debate players. We can talk about players, but let's not take shots at players.
Well,
You like
okay. All right.
you know what I mean?
All
Like,
right,
like
all
we
right.
can still be better. We can still
Okay.
be better than that.
Okay,
Like,
but so
you
this
talk
is
about
just
him,
this is just a football play. Last year he has the throwback with Kelsey or vice versa, or 2 years ago, whatever it was. And Mahomes is they call it back for an illegal forward pass. It was a great play across the field, leads a score. I think it was Travis that threw it to Tony, and Tony catches it and scores.
He threw it
And-
forward.
Yeah, and he threw it forward. So just like we saw Bo Nix with that downfield show.
And Patrick
And-
Mahomes threw a tantrum.
He threw a tantrum, like as big a tantrum, even more so it feels like than when he looks at the refs in his post game, and you're like, chill out, dude. Like, it's football. He's like, it took away from one of the greatest players in his legacy. I'm like, his legacy's fine. And I think it was before the Taylor Swift
Mhm.
stuff and before another Super Bowl, but that's the one that feels most memorable. But it is easy to sit here because we see all their games, just like you said, with Tom Brady getting calls, with Peyton Manning getting calls.
That was the
Oh,
one
I-
time Patrick Mahomes got screwed, and he didn't get screwed. It was the correct call.
And they still won the
no,
game.
so honestly, I wouldn't say Peyton really got all the calls that necessarily that you would think Tom got, because Peyton, they weren't winning. Like Peyton he got two. He got one in Indy, he got one here. But like all those years, who was he losing to?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like obviously you're not getting the calls that you really think, are really there. So, no matter what though, at the end of the day, we still got to compete. We're still everyone out on that field is all competitors, and it's our job to take the refs out of it. We don't
Yeah.
do
Don't
your
leave it up
job.
to the refs.
Yeah, do your job enough that it's not up
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
And no matter what, I know the Bills are not going out there thinking, oh, we got to fight the refs. No, we got to beat the Chiefs, and we got to go out there and we got to beat their ass. Like we
Yeah.
got to really beat them.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Not just kind of inch by, because nobody ever inches by the Chiefs. The only time they lose is when they lose, and that's what the Bills are going to have to do.
Can I ask you a question about the Browns and the season you just
Mhm.
had? Disappointing season. I'm doing the uniform inspection now on the Broncos sideline on game day. I know.
Are you Randy?
Yeah, I'm Randy now.
You're Randy now?
I'm Randy now.
And he's got a gold jacket. Nate,
Yeah,
Nate, you can handle it.
Exactly. But I get to walk around. I get to be, either sideline. And I was walking by your guys' sideline, and I'm seeing, obviously you got Stefanski, 2-time coach of the year. You got Jim Schwartz, who's been a head coach. You got Mike Vrabel down there helping out. You got all these really good, experienced coaches, very good, experienced players, and still a season goes that way. A lot of people think like, oh, they had a bad record. They're bad football players with bad football coaches. They all suck. Clearly, that's not the case. These are people who've had success in the NFL. How does it go south? What goes on in a season like what just happened with you guys that results in it being a losing season when you have so many capable people, not just players, but coaches, putting everything they have into the product?
Yeah, I think we're the perfect example of this league is unpredictable year to year, because you go from 13, 14 wins the year before to 3 wins the next year, and pretty much damn near the same roster. And you thinking you got a healthy Deshaun Watson coming back, and so that this just shows you this league is truly unpredictable. But it's just stuff like that just happens where things just don't mesh. And sometimes there is a little bit of living off the year before, where it's like you just assume things are just going to be as easy as they were the year before. And then sometimes some people just don't play as well as they did the year before either. You know what I mean? So it was a mix of everything. But the one thing I really can just say is that we just didn't come through in the times where we needed to. In close games, we struggled. We could never, on defense we couldn't close it out. On offense we couldn't score to close it out. So on special teams we struggled at times, and and I think with our turnover differential, you can't win when you're bottom.
Yeah.
When you're one of the worst teams in the league in turnover differential, you can't win. We were giving the ball away and we weren't taking the ball away. So that right there, it's just teams were just making more plays than us. And I think that it's a struggle, and that's the tough part about the league is you can look at the roster and be like, oh, look at this roster. It's a great roster.
Yeah.
But it's all about execution, and we were not executing on game day.
Yeah.
And you see it in our record.
So I got another question about the Broncos game. Bo Nix we know this. He had 3 transverse process fractures in his back going into that game against you guys that he broke against the Raiders. They decided to go with him out there, and I guess it was a pain issue, and he was able to tolerate it. His back was on the injury report that week. Do you guys look at that stuff? Are you guys like the quarterback's banged up? We got to attack him. I mean, obviously, you're always trying to attack a quarterback, But like, do you have any kind of defensive thought process or philosophy when you know you got a rookie quarterback back there who's injured?
Yeah, so the thinking behind it would be like, I guess a back, you assume if you're gonna play, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
If I was to see like Lamar Jackson with an ankle or a knee,
Yeah.
I would be thinking like, okay, maybe he's not going to try to scramble as much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's a big part of what he does is scramble, and if his lower body's messed up, maybe it's going to affect it a little bit. But like a back or something like that, like you know, you got to assume when they go out there, they're going to be full strength. Otherwise, they wouldn't be out there.
Right.
You know, because you know nobody wants to put bad film up there, and if you can't, and like as a pro, the smartest thing you can do is know when you can go and when you can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's an issue like a lot of pros don't understand yet. Is if you can't go, then don't go.
Yeah, because you're tough and all, but you're making it worse because like the guy behind you is a good football player.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, he's gonna be better than you at 70%.
100%.
Right.
And so I think that, you know, but one thing I will say about that though is I don't know how many times you should play on something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you want a long,
my thing is,
you want a long career.
Exactly. You're a rookie quarterback. Why are you doing that? You're about to go up against you guys on the defensive line, defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett, who likes to eat quarterbacks and snap them in half and like drink their blood in front of them. Like, why are you putting this rookie quarterback out there who's still, like you said, has a lot to learn about processing and being in the pocket and stepping up into the pocket on third down? He puts himself in some vulnerable positions sometimes.
And you guys are coming in. You guys are. I'm not trying to pick on your team. But you are coming in at 3-9 or 3-8. You weren't coming in at 8-3. You know, you weren't a buzzsaw at that point.
But like it's crazy. It's wild to say that though because that's something that fans think of. Players are trying to win every game.
Yeah,
you trying to. It doesn't matter. Like because the one thing about the NFL that people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize, that 0-16 team could still whoop your ass.
No doubt. Like
they get paid too.
And you saw that game against the Browns; it was evenly matched the entire game. And in fact, you guys shot yourself in the foot a couple of times.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you guys were moving the ball up and down the field, and you're absolutely right. Like the 0-16 team is one of the best football players on the planet, and can come in there and whoop you if you're not ready for it.
Remember those times where when the Lions went 0-16, and everybody was trying to say, "Oh, this Alabama team could beat this Lions." The Lions, that 0-16 team would beat them 56-0, and honestly, they would have negative yards. They would get sacked over and over because that 0-16 team is still 11 people on that team were the best people. Yeah, the 11 starters were the best people on their college teams. Oh yeah, not just the backup at Alabama, not just that. You have starters at Alabama, you have starters everywhere else that came together, and they were the best people in the country, not just the best college kids in the country. So that's what the difference is. Like. Every week you can lose, and that's how you see the trap games. Yeah, you see a team that's 14-1 playing a team that's 1-14 and get their ass kicked. Yeah, because this is the reality of the league. Every week is you got to go out there and put your best foot forward because these dudes, money's on the line, jobs on the line. Yeah, like people always ask questions of are you guys tanking?
Yeah, tanking for Shedeur.
How are you going to tank? Because we go out there and we don't put our best foot forward. We won't be in the league next year. Yeah. They're going to find somebody to replace you. Yeah. This isn't a profession where you can be, pack it in for next year. We'll be No, we got to think 10 people on our team will probably never play football ever again. Yeah. Every year, this is everyone's teams. We're all in a position to be replaced. So if you're not going out there putting that best film for it, and that's why I say the same thing about injuries. If you're going to go out there hurt and not be able to play don't go put that on film. Yeah. Because when it comes down to the next year of reevaluating stuff, they're gonna go look at that game and be like, "Do we want this type of guy playing?" Yeah. They're gonna tell you, "Thank you for playing hurt, but you didn't play well."
Right.
So we're gonna replace you.
Right. So when this story came out last week, they were cleaning out their lockers, and Bo volunteered the info. Went back inside the numbers, and then thinking about it again, he only carried the ball. He has credit 3 carries, 4 yards, really two carries for 5 yards, because the third carry was a kneel down after that last Jameis interception. So he only carried it for a guy that the week later, where he actually threw 3 picks, he threw 2 picks against you guys. He did carry the ball 8 times because the defense in Indy certainly didn't have Myles Garrett and you and
they had a bye week after that.
Oh, there was a bye week too,
so he could rest it up.
But he did have 2 interceptions, which had been uncharacteristic through that stretch, certainly in the film that you saw leading up to it. He had been running 4 first downs when it was there. And he also only completed 18 of 35 for 294, but 93 came on one pass. I'm not trying to minimize, but like you said, Denzel could have made that play, but that really makes him 17 of 34 for 201. And if that ends up, if that ball's knocked away by Denzel, not even picked off, you're like, all right, what's going on with Bo? He barely ran the ball, 17 for 2. I mean, I realize there's more to the drive, but it clearly had to have bothered him.
Yeah, but you also got, Zach Wilson right behind him, who has a ton of NFL starts. Jarrett Stidham, who has starts under his belt. Bo Nix knows, like every NFL player knows, if I step off the field and my backup goes and plays better than me.
Well, I think Bo Nix knows that wasn't going to happen.
How?
The first round, because when you're a first round pick, you have you have politics on your side.
Yeah,
and I will say you have politics on your side, as in, like, I've been around before where we've had first round picks who, I've seen first round picks, not necessarily I've played with, but you've seen it around where they're really not that good, but they're going to play them nonstop because we have this much invested in you. Your contract's fully guaranteed. Get your ass out there. You know what I mean? And a lot of organizations think like that.
But until you reveal it, like it becomes obvious he can't play, and then they do make a change. I mean, it takes a couple years.
So you think about the Zach Wilson thing and the Jets. He played,
34 starts,
and they were like, all right, man, that's for the stats he put up. Any other quarterback would have been. They would have found another quarterback after the first year.
Aaron Rodgers had worse stats this year, though, than Zach.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I guess you have to subtract whatever is 16 of those starts, or because I guess I might add.
He actually did all right at the end of the season, a little better, but he still wasn't winning games.
And he got put in a bad situation last year with the Aaron Rodgers thing, and
Zach was
yeah. So that's he got put in a bad situation where mentally as a quarterback, if you're not mentally fully invested in this team, and they already pretty much told you you're the backup, you're not going. You're like, pretty much, we're going to get rid of you. We brought Aaron Rodgers in to win.
The fourth play or whatever.
And then then you had to go in like
your first year.
You've already believed that this team believes in you,
right?
So as a quarterback, it's already tough to get yourself going.
Yeah.
Your first year was 2017 when the Broncos brought you.
No,
in.
my first year was 2014.
The Broncos brought you here.
No, I'm talking about Raiders.
No. When the Broncos brought you here, first year in Denver, they bring you in, and Paxton Lynch was a first round pick a year before. Trevor clearly beating him out. They're obviously trying to give Paxton every chance to try to earn the job. But I imagine you could tell pretty early on, just like we could watching, as he would run the ball in 7-on-7, that maybe this isn't going to work. How tough is that, though, when you know that a team, for both of you, I mean, you're an undrafted guy, you were a late round pick, a team is invested in a player at a position, quarterback being the most obvious, but any spot, you're like, God, this dude is just getting beat every play. You watch the film on Monday.
It just happens, man. They have their preferences. They're guys who are going to give this first shot to it. You just got to, Shelby just finished his 11th season, and he had to kind of wiggle his way in there and establish yourself as like the guy that they want versus the guy they're trying to replace, right?
Well, it's funny you say that, though, because when I first got here, I was like 6th on the depth chart.
Sure.
And what happened was Derek Wolfe got hurt, Billy Wynn got hurt, Jared Crick got hurt. And then Zach Kerr got hurt. And so then I remember, we're playing the Packers, the 3rd preseason game. This is when we really had 4, 3rd preseason game. And I'm playing, and that's a game that's really supposed to be for like the starters. I'm playing 3 quarters. And that's really what helped jumpstart my career because I had 3 sacks that game.
Yeah.
And so it just took an opportunity. But if it was just a straight up go compete, I would never even had a chance because I wouldn't have had the reps. But that's usually what has to happen if you're a lower tier guy. And it's why I always tell the young guys too: when you get your shot, you better be ready to take advantage of it because you might only get one.
Yeah.
And then you're out the league. You know what I mean? So no matter what, you just have to be prepared as a young guy and be ready to really pounce on that. And I feel like that's the issue nowadays. Is like with this NIL and everything, like. A lot of the younger players that come in, they're very entitled.
And they have money.
And they're very entitled. And it's just like they don't understand, like, the league, like, is not going to wait for you. If you're not ready to play now, you might never get a chance again.
Yeah.
And so this is why I'm still able to play 11 going on 12 years.
But now you got so much more knowledge than these young players, so much more experience. We were talking about it right before, like, these young players don't know football as well. And as long as your body holds up as you get older, you get an advantage every year from all that stuff you're learning that they just don't know.
But do you blame them though?
No.
Like the college game doesn't have. They're not trying to teach you,
especially
anything.
if you're transferring to different programs.
Yeah, like you're not trying to teach you anything, and these offenses aren't running real offenses. So these players get to the league and they struggle.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Same, like I always say, like the 2 positions I see struggling the most right now, other than quarterback, O-line and D-line.
Mhm.
Because you're not getting the real football experience in college anymore, because now it's just spread it out, throw the ball all over the place.
Yeah.
And when I was in college, we're going to run the ball down your throat.
Yeah.
We're going to teach you how to play the run, because in the NFL, if you can't stop the run, you won't be on the field, because teams are going, like, if they see you're a liability, you're going to be a third down player, and everybody wants to be a 3-down player. That's how you get paid the big bucks.
So you've how many playoff games have you played in?
In my 11 years, I've played in 2 playoff
Well,
games.
it's more than 0. So those 2 playoff games, I mean, is there from your perspective and as defensive lineman, is there a significant change in the pace, the intensity from a regular season game? Because the Broncos just went into Buffalo and got absolutely manhandled on the defensive line, got pushed. There's just holes just opening up. Like, we didn't see it all in the regular season.
James Cook looked like the best running back in football.
Yeah, and so it's like, obviously the Broncos are not ready for that play, or we're not ready for that playoff moment yet, at least against a team like that. But from a defensive line perspective, how did they get gashed like that in a game like that?
Man, I can attest to that, because last year when we played the Texans, we went out there and got our ass kicked after just beating them 3 weeks earlier. And we went out there and got our ass kicked. It's just a different brand of ball. It's less forgiving. Mistakes get amplified in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And and that's why I always say vets are really big for playoff runs, because we're here to keep the young guys even keel. Don't get too high, don't get too low.
Right.
And I think, all these successful teams are teams that have the veteran leadership that help reel in the young guys to really learn how to play playoff football. Playoff football is just who makes the least amount of mistakes. And that's the main thing, because in the regular season, you'll be able to recover from something like that. But in the playoffs, one turnover can change the game. They change the game for the worse. Like, look at Baltimore. Like, Baltimore, those turnovers in the game, if they don't have those, they win that game.
Yeah.
If Lamar doesn't fumble going into the red zone on that sack, and Vaughn doesn't pick it up and run all, like, they're going to go up there and they're going to end up winning that game.
I thought Vaughn was going to score, and then I realized how much more field he had to cover.
No, he had to go 80 yards.
I know,
He had to
So
go 80 yards.
I'm like, oh no, those are the other numbers. Final thing about that game, real quick, because we do have some breaking NFL news. A couple pieces of NFL news that are, I think, worth reacting to, is Mark Andrews doesn't come up with that ball. You got to shout out Bills Mafia, who at last check had raised $60,000 for his charity, because he, like so many other players, are receiving death threats. I'm not saying so, but it's happened. Kickers miss
Aren't they
kick.
giving that money to his charity as a joke for him, like,
Dropping the ball?
dropping the ball?
They've done this a lot when they've had wins that
When somebody else messes up, and, they're like, "Oh, we'll
But
make
it's
it
still
feel
real.
You
better."
helped us out. We'll help
But
you
it's
out.
still real money that really helps his charity.
Yeah, I
So even
know,
if you're
but-
doing it, if you're throwing in 10 or $20, it's still going to help his charity, which
Man,
is
I'm sure
with
he'd
kids with
say he'd rather
diabetes.
win that game.
Of
Yeah,
course,
exactly.
The 60
Because I'll
grand.
put in $60,000 to my
Yeah,
own
to win
charity
the
to
game.
win that game.
So
100%.
there are 2 pieces of breaking news, but I do have a question for either of you. How would you like to save money after spending so much money in the holiday season?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Trusted American could help you with your mortgage payment. If you go to trustedamerican.com, there's a chance the QR code is about to pop up on the screen, but they can help you refinance your home and not have to make any payments for a couple of months. Trusted American's salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments today. And right now, they will help you cover the costs of your appraisal, which is a $650 value. So again, you can go to trustedamerican.com or just look above Shelby's head and click on that QR code. There you go.
Boom.
Perfect. You nailed it without even looking. You can be a weatherman, no
Yeah, you already
problem.
know.
But go to trustedamerican.com if you're listening, or if you're watching, click on that QR code that we just had. Not one, but 2 pieces of breaking news. One probably bigger than the other, although the other one maybe affects the Broncos more directly week over week in the league, or at least twice a year. Aaron Glenn, according to now just about every NFL insider, is finalizing the deal to become the Jets coach. So I don't think he ever even met with the Saints, who really wanted to have a shot at a guy that I think not only played
That
there,
cap
but worked there.
situation is just so.
The Saints, yeah,
To be a head coach and go into that cap situation is tough.
With the Jets or the Saints?
The
Saints,
Saints,
yeah,
they're
Saints.
85 million. It's a disaster.
Ow.
Sean Payton kept putting voidable
Well, because you
years.
just keep all the voidable years, and you just keep restructuring
They
everybody.
put some
Yeah.
voidable
Like
years too.
Sean, when he was there, kind of started it, and they've just kind of gone downhill with it since.
Yeah.
And they just keep pushing it later and later and later. Eventually, you just have to be like, we're going to suck for a couple years.
Yeah, and
Hey,
I-
you
I
shouldn't have
think
dropped
that's where
your
they
phone,
are. Well, I
You
was
shouldn't have
curious.
dropped it.
The Broncos have they've been adding some voidable years to some contracts around here that I think Greg
Gonna come back and bite 'em?
Penner and George Payton and Rich Hurtado are certainly doing it, but I don't think they're going to do it as blindly as maybe they were doing it in New Orleans. And the other piece of news, which the reason I say it matters, I think, to the Broncos is, Tom Telesco got fired. John Spytek, former Broncos personnel assistant from back in the day, who's been in Tampa for a bunch of years and has Michigan ties to Tom Brady. He is officially going to be the GM of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Weren't you just swinging from Telesco's pubes recently, talking about how great he was and how he's going to revamp that team and turn him into a powerhouse?
He's clearly a good evaluator, certainly a first-round talent. Now, those guys have all gotten hurt, but Derwin James was the right pick. Joey Bosa is kind of a no-brainer. Rashawn Slater, who's been hurt a lot. But you can go through. But then he also found Austin Eckler. Tom Telesco built I think a good roster year over year with the Chargers, but it can never come together.
And the Chargers always had one of the best rosters,
right?
And
they
never had an O-line, but they always had skill position. Remember, you got to think, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They really had. Don't forget, they drafted Melvin Gordon, and this is Melvin's heyday when Melvin was really like killing the game when he was in San Diego. And so, obviously Tom Telesco knows talent.
That's what
he knows talent, and it's just it's just an unfortunate.
I'm just messing with you, kid.
Either way, so John Spytek now, who again was
Spytek is such a weird name.
He was with Brady. I don't know if they crossed over at Michigan specifically, but they had both Michigan men as both.
So how much do you think Brady had of an influence on this?
A lot.
Since you keep bringing the Michigan Brady thing, so you think Brady? You think Brady's calling the shots?
Talking to people with the Raiders, and they weren't sure exactly how much influence he'd have. But Antonio Pierce gets fired. The GM gets fired after 1 year. When it's a little hard to maybe evaluate, he signed Christian Wilkins, which was a big deal. And that Brady is calling the big shots. He's not going to be involved in practice squad acquisitions, but whatever big free agent dollars they're going to throw at perhaps a quarterback, like maybe a Sam Darnold is a name that I've seen linked to Vegas potentially if they don't get the draft pick.
Kirk Cousins,
names like that. But they
have to figure out a way. They have to figure out a way to enhance their future, though.
Yeah,
get a young guy. This is like short little band-aid.
They trade up for somebody.
I guess Darnold's not even 30 yet, is he? So Darnold, I guess it's just it's tough, and you hate to see it as a player, like somebody like hurt their value as much as they did at the end of the year as Sam Darnold did. But like you still got to look at what he did the whole season. It's just that a lot of people are going to be like, well, when it mattered, he didn't necessarily play the best.
That was his first playoff game he's ever played in too, against the Rams.
If you're the Raiders. If you're the Raiders, you played for the Raiders, you grew up in the Bay Area. The Raiders have been in the playoffs.
Not a lot.
I guess they got there with Versace a couple of years ago.
2016, they went to the playoffs too.
Okay, that was your Derek Carr got hurt.
Yeah, right? And honestly, I'm telling you this right now, I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have made a real run if Derek Carr doesn't get hurt. They had the best whole line in the league at the moment, and they were running the ball with Josh Jacobs. They were really no Josh Jacobs wasn't even there yet. They were running the ball hard.
Or whoever was there.
They were doing it.
But they haven't really done anything since 2002.
Right. So if you're the Raiders and you sign Sam Darnold a Geno Smith kind of deal, Baker Mayfield kind of deal, so it's not going to set you back forever, but he's going to be your starter until you really figure out that young guy, or maybe he's your starter for a long time. Don't you think every Raider, like tried and true Raiders fan, I know Vegas is becoming Raiders fans, but the ones that stuck with them, if you could get them to 14-3 and a wild card playoff berth, don't you think every person in Raider Nation would take that with Sam Darnold?
Oh, my wife is from the Bay Area, so my wife's a diehard Raider fan, and I have to listen to this garbage all the time. But she, they would be 100% happy.
Yeah.
With it, you know what I mean? But the issue I think with the Raiders is they just have to find their identity, but also they have to find their Las Vegas identity.
Yeah,
like they're kind of displaced. It's like the A's are. They're kind of displaced in Vegas because you go to a game, it's a away game for them every time.
Yeah,
the other team's fans always have they're more noticeable in the stadium than Raiders fans are.
Yeah, and the Raiders have never had. I know they've had a Hall of Fame quarterback with Jim Plunkett, and
he's technically not in Stabler, but we're going to the 70s for.
But they've never been like the quarterback guy.
Well, Derek Carr.
I know, but what I'm saying is they don't mind not having a top tier 1 quarterback. Like if their identity is strong and their defense is balling, their running game is good and stuff like that. So I don't think that they necessarily need a top 5 quarterback in the NFL to feel like a successful franchise. Personally, I mean, when they went to the Super Bowl in 2002 or 2003, that was Rich Gannon, and he wasn't
he the league MVP that year?
Well, he was an older guy who got a new start there, and he was never so that's a Sam Darnold argument. Like Sam Darnold comes in with more experience and ends up leading that team, and I think he probably would do so pretty well.
But you could use that cap space, a hell of a lot better,
and no state income tax.
Yeah, but I guess if you use that cap space and really revamp the team, because they have a lot of holes in their roster that they have to fix up, if they use that cap space and then drafted somebody and then had a smart quarterback who a real game manager. Obviously, that's hard to find nowadays. You can't find a Brock Purdy just anywhere.
It's funny how you say game manager as a positive, but most media members and people like to use that as a negative. Like he's just a game manager.
It's the most positive thing. It's the most positive thing you can be as a quarterback.
No, I agree.
Like, if you don't go out there and make mistakes and you just you pretty much hand the ball off and hit the throws you're supposed to hit, and you don't do too much.
That's your job.
That's your job, and you'll make $40 million a year.
And you asked him about his playoff teams. You get to Seattle as part of the Russ trade. Everyone's bagging on Geno. Oh, there goes our Hall of Fame quarterback. It's going to be a rebuild. And they obviously got good assets from the Broncos. Drafted really well. That rookie class is really good. Y'all go to the playoffs. Geno gets a nice deal. Then your first year in Cleveland, you get Joe Flacco after Deshaun's hurt. And Joe Flacco is the definition of a game manager at this point of his career.
I wouldn't even say Geno is a game manager because games. Okay,
yeah, I guess Geno.
Well, Geno's a game manager. Like I guess you say game manager, but Geno goes and makes plays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he did, but like Geno's not going to. I think what people need to realize: a game manager is not going to lose your game.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the ultimate game manager that you've ever seen is Tom Brady. Tom Brady is like, and there's nothing wrong. It's actually a very complimentary thing to say to a quarterback. He's a game because when is Tom Brady ever going to lose you the game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's going to do exactly what he needs to do to win the game. If it's by 1, if it's by 3, he's going to do exactly what he needs to do. But he's also one of those guys that can go win you the game too.
Yeah.
There just aren't enough of those, and we're going to see 2 more on Sunday in Kansas City. I think Jaden Daniels, sort of like C.J. Stroud a year ago, and C.J. Stroud played pretty well last week too. You're like, okay, these guys are young, but I'm at least putting them in the. We'll see. They could probably get there.
Well, it's the first time I think in the playoffs where a team was outgained.
No, no turnovers.
No turnovers, and still lost the game.
Which team? Oh, the
Texans.
But you think about across the league, like Dak Prescott hasn't proven to be that guy. We can go. Joe Burrow has. Matt Stafford has. There's only a handful that will go out and win you games. Jared Goff, the moment appeared to be too big for me today. I understand their defense was decimated, but their defense wasn't throwing those picks. Jared Goff was.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying there aren't that many of them. But I think the Raiders would take Jared Goff right now, too, just like they take Sam Darnold. So it'll be interesting to see there. The other news, though, Aaron Glenn, who doesn't even interview with the Saints after, they were hoping to get him there, too. The Lions lose their OC and their DC. They're going to obviously get healthier because they had so many guys on IR. Is their window closed, and what does the rebuild look like for the Jets?
And they didn't just lose their OC and their DC. They lost their D-line coach and
their O-line coach.
No, their D-line coach is now the DC because he was my rookie year D-line coach. He's now the DC for the Patriots with Vrabel.
And the O-line coach is
because he was in
Johnson.
Tennessee with Vrabel before, so now he's the DC in New England with Vrabel. So you're losing a lot of coaches.
Mark Brunell might be going to be the OC with the Jets.
Mark Brunell?
He's been the quarterbacks coach in Detroit the last couple of years.
No,
so what about Coach Prime? No more Coach Prime to the NFL talk?
Man,
Cowboys are having a second interview with Brian Schottenheimer.
It doesn't seem.
How would you respond?
He has a cushy job right now in Colorado. He doesn't have to recruit. He has that set up in his contract. He doesn't have to recruit. People want to come play with you because they look at you as one of them. You know what I mean? Like you're a former player. You played at the highest level. You know what I mean? You were the best athlete out there. So if anyone can tell me how to get to where I want to go, you're going to assume it's Coach Prime. So, he has a great job right now. And if they keep getting better, you're getting the recruits. You got the five-star quarterback coming in.
Yeah.
Like you're getting the recruits. If you just keep improving, your life just keeps getting, the checks are just going to keep coming. They're going to have to re-up him, give him more money.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new contract sitting on his desk, apparently.
And he hasn't signed it?
He hasn't signed it yet. It's just, it's an extension, so he's still under contract. But
it's going to be a challenge for them to improve next year, though. Losing your quarterback who's going to be a top 5 pick and the Heisman Trophy winner who played both sides of the ball. I think that's a significant number of plays, couple playmakers, the kind of the spark plug on your team. Those guys are being removed. How do you replace that?
I think what they'll be able to do, though, they'll be able to distribute the ball a lot more evenly, and instead of trying to feed because when you have a player of Travis caliber, you want him to have the ball in his hands.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of trying to feed Travis because of what he can do, what you're doing is now everybody it's an open book. Yeah. I think the hardest person to replace is going to be Shador because we all know how hard it is to find a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like you got to think how many scholarship quarterbacks you see every year come out, but then how many do you ever end up hearing about? It's such a small percentage of quarterbacks that actually end up being successful, and no matter what system we put them in, and so that's going to be the harder person to replace Shedeur for what he brings. But what I do want to see, though, is even if you do take a step back on offense, your defense has to get better. Especially in the Big 12, your run defense has to get way better. And so I just think that the Buffs have, they have the talent, and they're getting, the transfer portal.
That kid from Alabama, best D lineman in the portal.
They're getting, they hit the portal, and they recruit the high school level very well too. So, it'd be interesting to see how Colorado does next year.
So as we were talking about these coaches moving around, one that affects the Broncos, Chris Banjo, who was still on staff after Ben Katwika just got let go. And remember, Chris, like Davis Webb, stepped right off the field and into a coaching role 2 years ago here in Denver because he had played for Sean a little bit and wasn't sure what he was doing. He looks like he's headed with Aaron Glenn, and you got to think that's now Aaron Glenn, I guess, might have been with him when they were in New Orleans, but Sean and Mike Westhoff and them are talking to Aaron Glenn, and he's now poaching Chris Banjo to go from being an assistant to the lead special teams coach. Mark Brunell is going to be his OC. Steve Wilkes is going to come in as his veteran DC. And I mentioned Hank Fraley is going to go OC. When you've got a play caller as your head coach means different things in different places. But Hank Fraley is getting promoted from O-line coach in Detroit to OC in Chicago.
No, so it's when you have a team like Detroit or any of these teams that have a bunch of good coaches that are league-wide considered good coaches, that window is extremely small, because if you're winning like the way that Detroit is winning, you only have a year or two before they get poached and do their own thing. And so you just have to figure out a way to replicate any of that success you have, and you have to have other coaches in mind, or you have to be teaching and mentoring the younger coach you have on your staff to take over for them. And so because they already know what you like as a coach, because obviously Dan Campbell loves to run the ball. He's a run the ball type guy. And so you got to assume the next person that's going to come up has to understand that. You can't have a guy that wants to throw the ball 50 times a game and come in as an OC for a head coach who really wants you to run the ball and play hard-nosed defense.
We just talked about you said the Bears' new OC was the O-line coach in Detroit.
Hank Fraley,
Well, that's a philosophy right there, right? Like, it's not the passing game coordinator from some other team is now your OC. It's the O-line coach who obviously likes to run the football. The 49ers for 3 or 4 years there were like a coaching factory too. Like, and they always knew, Kyle Shanahan knew that his 2 or 3 of his guys were going to get poached every year. So they always, like you said, had to be trained in the next iteration of them.
Sean McVay's still dealing with it. It seems like every year.
Maybe not the Niners, not so much this year. They went similar to what you guys went through. Have a really good season followed by a down season with pretty much the same personnel.
You got to be worried, I guess, if you're the 49ers, because now Brock Purdy, it's time to pay up. So right there, the whole way that the 49ers worked, though, is that they were able to distribute money to different places on the team because they weren't paying the quarterback. So when you pay the quarterback, you're going to have to release some big name players if you're going to be, under the cap. You kind of have to.
Might be Debo.
It could be Debo. Now, and honestly, obviously McCaffrey just got paid again, but he might have to restructure. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people.
Trade for him.
You know what I mean? Or, you have Trent Williams coming back. Older might have to restructure. It's a lot of people who, when a quarterback gets paid, a lot of people end up leaving the team because they can't afford everybody.
You don't have to pay
could you throw that comment up there by Paul before I know we got Shelby, why does Bo's passes keep getting knocked down so easily?
He's not the tallest guy in the world, and when your release point is kind of low, that's just what happens. Batted passes happen when you have when you're trying to do check downs. When you're throwing it across the middle, and so these are all plays that Bo likes to make. He doesn't mind throwing a check down, and then also like to the receivers coming across the middle, they do a lot of meshes and stuff. So those type of routes are what gets balls knocked down. Obviously, those deep balls are tough because the trajectory, you throwing it straight up. So it's all those intermediate to the short routes. And that's what he's done. He does very, very well. And so those are the ones that get knocked down.
So you are the king of batted balls. So
why you just say it like that?
He knows exactly why he said it like that.
In more ways than no.
Shelby doesn't watch this show enough.
So a question though about like that process for you as a D lineman, because obviously you have an offensive lineman in front of you trying to put hands on you and hand placement, and you got your own technique with him that you're worried about, and the defensive call where you're supposed to be and all that. And then on top of that, you have eyes on the quarterback as well. And how does that go when you're actually trying to time up a batted ball and dealing with your own technique and your own and the offensive lineman who is trying to affect you?
So obviously, the biggest thing I always try to tell people when it comes to batted balls is you don't get them staying at the line of scrimmage, because you have to get some pressure. You have to be in the backfield. You know, I mean, by the time it's the line of scrimmage, it's going to have a little air on it. So you want to get it right when he kind of lets it go. So you have to get some pressure up the field, but also you just have to keep eyes on the quarterback. So we all have pass rush lanes that we rush through, and it's kind of keeping eyes on the quarterback. You know, every week we get a report of how deep the quarterback drops when he throws it under center, when he's in shotgun. And so you already make your pass rush plan based off of those stats that I just said.
Yeah.
And so then also time of throw. A lot of times teams on first and second down throw the ball a lot quicker than they do on third down.
Yeah.
And so the ball's gonna come out quick.
Like 1-2, and then you get your hand up.
So that's the thing. So when you're rushing,
are you paying attention to the formation where the receivers are around you?
No. So what I do, I don't necessarily. I'll look at some formations because a lot of teams, if the tight end is split, it's a pass key.
Yeah.
So and that's another in the NFL. If you have anything that you can find that gives you any type of hint or a key that can help you, before the play, you have to use it, because that's the difference between having 5 sacks and having 12.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think just the biggest thing though is it's when you're rushing, keeping eyes on the quarterback, but then also just the timing of it. Most people don't know this, but I'm my high school's all-time leader in every block shot category in basketball, because it's just timing. And
Wait,
so,
you are?
Yeah, I am.
You went to a little 1A school.
No, I didn't. I went to one of the biggest schools in Wisconsin. Don't do that.
And you won a state championship in football. I get it.
No, I won 2. Lost a third. Only lost 2 games all high school, but
he's like the Dave Lowe guy of Wisconsin.
I don't know who's counting, but I am. But
the ball doesn't spike itself. So.
No, but it's just all about getting that pressure and keeping the eyes on the quarterback. And then when they take that hand off the ball and go throw it, it's all about just keeping the vision on the quarterback. When they take the hand off the ball and go throw it, the biggest thing with batted balls is don't leave your feet, because if they pump it, because I got a sack this year off of that when we were playing the Bengals. I was going against Joe Burrow. He pumped it. I put my hand up, but I didn't jump, and he brought it back down and then tried to scramble up. So then, since I didn't jump, I was able to come off and make the sack off of him on 4th down. But that's the thing, you just can't jump. And even when you're rushing, but don't jump. You should never have 2 feet off the ground at any point unless you're a receiver or a DB.
So Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, front runners for MVP. You just mentioned Joe Burrow. You play against them all. Who's the best quarterback in the league right now?
Lamar Jackson.
He's better than Patrick Mahomes?
Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson by far, because he took the biggest step with his throwing this year.
Yeah.
He's hurt. He hurt every team this year with his arm.
Yeah.
And he still is the best player in the open field by far. Like, it's just, even watching that, I remember the first game of the year, we're watching it when they played the Chiefs, and all you saw with every play was that Chris Jones was coming off that left side trying to close it, and no matter how Chris Jones rushed, Lamar Jackson had a way to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, it's hard to sack a guy like that.
Yeah.
But then also when he gets loose, and it could be 3rd and 20, if he gets out the pocket, it's a chance he picks it up with his legs.
Yeah.
And a guy like that, it's just really hard to stop. Mahomes is Mahomes. We know he has the cannon.
If it's 3rd and 20, he's going to find someone to cheap shot him and go and throw his arms up and get that first down.
Yeah, but you never know.
Different tactics.
No, but like that thing about Lamar though, Lamar's going to make the play.
Yeah.
And Lamar he makes you have to change the way you rush based off of what he can do.
You played against Tom Brady. You played against Big Ben. I don't know if you played against Peyton. I know you're in the league.
I played against Peyton.
So you played against Peyton. All right, so you played against all those guys. Aaron Rodgers, who I know, quarterback of your hometown Packers, was someone you were a fan of. Those guys, plus all these modern era guys now that are younger with Burrow. And who is the toughest to go against? Is it Lamar because of that extra?
Oh no, I would say it'd be Brady or Aaron Rodgers by far, just because Brady's not hurting him with his legs. He's not, but his mind is cerebral. Like the way that he I would say him and Aaron Rodgers, nothing you show them is going to surprise them. They've seen it all. And they know exactly how they're going to dissect you about it before you get there. And the best part about Brady couldn't move, but he could move great in the pocket.
Yeah.
Like he was one of the best, I would say, at maneuvering in the pocket.
Yeah. And
getting free and buying time by just a couple steps. Never had to get outside the tackle box, but inside the pocket was able to move and create time in order to make throws.
That's what Bo's got to learn how to do.
Yeah.
And then last one, you talked about Lamar and Jaden Daniels. I'll throw Kyler in there. if there's a foot race between NFL quarterbacks all time, even Mike Vick, who do you think I mean, 100-yard dash, not a 60, not a 40, because I think Kyler would probably fare better in something like that. But who do you think the fastest is? I realize you didn't play against
Michael Vick and Lamar would be pretty close.
Yeah,
I don't know how much farther Jaden is behind them though.
No,
Jaden's longer.
Jaden
His stride
can
is
run.
longer.
Yeah,
Jaden can run. That would be a great race. I would love to see Mike Vick, Jaden Daniels, and Lamar Jackson.
Daniel Jones is sneaky fast. He might be like
not sneaky fast. He's fast.
Yeah, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
funny because we always say
Sneaky
sneaky
'cause
if
he's
it's a white
white.
guy.
Yeah,
I was
he's
like,
white.
if
Come
it's a
on.
white guy, yeah, he's sneaky fast.
He's a gym rat type of guy.
Yeah, it's like Christian McCaffrey, he's just fast, right?
Yeah.
If he beats you in a race, he's
Yeah.
just fast.
Yeah.
Chris McCaffrey's fast, but he has very good balance.
I'm just
I
thinking
would
of
say-
guys who are
yeah.
just fast. Like,
No, but yeah, I would say honestly, I think Lamar, just how twitchy he is,
yeah,
but also it's not just a straight line, the side to side, the
Yeah.
ability to stop and start.
Yeah.
That's what makes Lamar elite.
he
Yeah.
doesn't take really big hits either.
When,
very
I'm gonna say,
often.
like, you never are able to just clean up Lamar. Lamar is pretty much just going to fall on his own. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just a different type of game.
Opposite of
for him.
RG3. RG3 would have fared well in that race too, because RG3 was a
He was a track
guy.
runner.
Yeah. So Shelby, this is a lot of fun. We know that you'll be around plenty throughout the offseason. Maybe you'll even swing by Friday. We do our full playoff preview. Liv will be here, I believe, is the plan. But good talking football with you. We're the Harrises. Comes out every Thursday with Shelby, with Ryan Harris and Chris Harris. And you're hanging out on KOA for a couple more days on their afternoon show as well. But we appreciate what a big part you are of everything here at Guerrilla Sports and at Off Field. So thanks for stopping by.
Well, appreciate you having me.
And
Thanks, Shelby.
tell all your friends to go to trustedamerican.com if they want help with their mortgage. That's Nate Jackson. I'm BK. Shelby Harris. We'll catch you Friday on our next episode of Off Field.